Sorry, I thought you were...
I was just waiting to cut you off, but certainly you've got old habits die hard. Seeing that it is 2 o'clock, we'll break for question period. And when after question period, the honourable member will have 6 minutes and 10 seconds to make. Statements by members, déclaration des députés. The honourable member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to draw the attention of this House to the plight of the very courageous residents, the Inuit peoples of the village of Clyde River, who have gone to court to stop an approved project, the seismic blasting of their region for a 5-year period, 5 months a year, with seismic guns that are 100,000 times louder than a jet engine. These will blast 24 hours a day, 5 months of the year for 5 years. This was approved by the previous government, but I call on the new government to honor their commitment to the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and accept the reality. The Inuit peoples of Clyde River were never consulted. They've taken this to the Supreme Court, but it's more urgent than that. Their case needs action now. Cancel the seismic permits.
The honourable member for Marcouville-Fortin. Mr. Speaker, allow me to thank the citizens of Marcouville-Fortin for the trust they placed in me on October 19th. I want to thank my family, my friends, my volunteers, as well as the voters. Mr. Speaker, the riding of Marcouville-Fortin is so wealthy in history, attributes, and people. The people of Marcouville-Fortin are people with a big heart that I have been frequenting for over 50 years, be it as a teacher, as a public servant, or as a politician. And it's with great honor that I intend to serve them in the next few years. Mr. Speaker, Marcouville-Fortin is young families who settle in the riding close to the metropolitan Montreal area, who like the tranquility and prosperity. They're also seniors who decide to stay there in great comfort in their older days. Marcouville-Fortin is history, it's the present, and it's the future.
The honourable member for Markham-Unionville.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to acknowledge 360 Kids, an important intercommunity organization in the York region. Last week, I got to participate for the second time in the 360 experience, an event organized to draw awareness to the youth homelessness. Along 35 other community leaders, including colleagues from across the aisle, we helped raise almost $100,000 so far. 360 Kids serves over 5,000 homeless youth in the York region annually, and I can tell this House that the experience was very humbling. Walking all night in the shoes of homeless youth helps put everything else in perspective. Thank you to the volunteers who made this event happen and to 360 Kids for all their hard work towards this cause. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Etobicoke Lakeshore.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today as this is our first day sitting in the month of March. We've all heard about March Madness. Mr. Speaker, most people mistake this for a basketball tournament. I would invite those people to come to Toronto and join our thriving Irish community this month. The Irish community in Etobicoke Lakeshore in Toronto is large, enthusiastic, hardworking, and frankly, a lot of fun. During the month of March, the community seems to grow. Seems everybody wants to be Irish, Mr. Speaker. Festivities began yesterday with the raising of the Irish flag at Toronto City Hall, which was followed by the Irish Person of the Year luncheon. Over the next 10 days, Toronto will host the Ireland Fund of Canada's annual St. Patrick's Day luncheon, which is the largest event of its kind worldwide with over 1,250 people. This is followed by the Grand Marshal's Ball, the St. Patrick's Day Parade, and a few other events tossed in just for good measure. So, Mr. Speaker, if you really want to see March Madness, please come to Toronto during the month of March and watch us paint the town green.
The honourable member for Vancouver Kingsway.
On February 18, a private, paid donor for-profit blood plasma collection clinic opened in Saskatoon after receiving an operating license from this government. Mr. Speaker, after the tragedy of the tainted blood scandal, which saw 30,000 Canadians receive diseased blood, Canada learned a clear lesson. Blood is a public resource and profits must never be permitted to compete with safety. Justice Creever, Commissioner for the inquiry into the tainted blood scandal, understood this. The governments of Quebec, Ontario, and Manitoba understand this today. A prominent Canadian recently expressed it this way, quote, "For whatever reason, it's taking governments a long time to make up their minds. It shouldn't. The integrity of the blood supply and our continuing resolve to keep a strong volunteer base should make the answer simple. Say no to pay for blood or plasma, period," end quote. Mr. Speaker, who said this? Former Liberal leader Bob Rae in 2014.
The honourable member for North Vancouver.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize an exemplary constituent who has dedicated his life to the safety and well-being of others. North Vancouver resident David Brewer was recently awarded the National Search and Rescue Secretariat Award of Excellence for Leadership. In his 50 years of volunteer service, David has made an invaluable academic and operational contribution to the way communities and provinces design search and rescue programs. It is thanks to his leadership and innovation that Emergency Management British Columbia now has a nationally and internationally recognized search and rescue program. Today, it is comprised of 80 search and rescue groups administered by 2,500 volunteers who respond annually to over 1,400 operations. David's selfless work and achievements remind us that a volunteer is not just a volunteer, but an indispensable resource to their community. Today, I ask the House to join me in thanking David and volunteers like David for their tireless work and dedication. Thank you.
The honourable member for Beauport, Côte-de-Beaupré, Île-d'Orléans, Charlevoix. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate a person from our riding, cross-country ski athlete Alex Harvey from Saint-Féréol-des-Neiges for his performance at the Canada Ski Tour in Quebec City last weekend. Alex Harvey won the silver medal for the freestyle sprint at the third stage and placed fourth in the 15K race. Alex is an incredible athlete who has brought Canada to the highest levels of cross-country skiing. One must mention his perseverance and the years of work necessary to prepare for this level of competition. Alex Harvey is a brilliant athlete who honors his region. His dedication and passion for cross-country skiing make him an example for our society, our youth, and pride for our riding. I wish him every success for the rest of the season and for seasons to come.
The honourable member for Canada Carleton.
Mr. Speaker, recently residents across Ottawa and the National Capital Region were saddened to hear that Stu Schwartz, perhaps better known as Stuntman Stu, had been diagnosed with leukemia. As a local radio host and public address announcer at the Canadian Tire Centre, Mr. Schwartz is the voice of the Ottawa Senators in my riding of Canada Carleton. But Mr. Schwartz doesn't just use his voice for radio and announcing senators' goals, however. He's a community activist speaking out on behalf of anti-bullying campaigns and is involved in numerous charitable causes in the city, including charities that provide support for young cancer patients and their families. I know all members of the House will join me in thanking Mr. Schwartz for his tireless and inspirational community activism and extend our best wishes in his fight against leukemia. We're with you, Stu. Thank you.
The honourable member for Winnipeg Centre.
Mr. Speaker, during the election campaign, I had the opportunity of doing door-to-door in the inner city of Winnipeg, and I came across a lady by the name of Elizabeth. I asked her if she voted, and she said no, she's never voted, even though she was 50 years old. And so I took the time to say, well, let's see if we can get you registered. But I discovered there were 5 other individuals in that house who did not have addresses. They were, in fact, homeless people who were staying at her place. Now, in Winnipeg in October, there was a homeless street census that was done by the Social Planning Council of Winnipeg where they found there were 1,400 verified homeless people, but that did often not include people like those 5 that I found in this one house. And so I'd like to thank these organizations that spent so much time trying to build up a data set that we can use now to craft great government policy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes, Brock.
Mr. Speaker, on Saturday, February 27th, I was honored to attend the 10th anniversary of the Business and Community Awards Gala put on by the Haliburton Highlands Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber received 94 nominations from 65 different businesses, organizations, and individuals. This speaks volumes to the hard work and excellence being done right across Haliburton County. I would like to congratulate all award nominees and recipients, including Joanne Barnes, who received the title of Highlander of the Year for her tireless involvement within the community. The not-for-profit which she founded, called Fuel for Warmth, also received an award that evening. In addition, all volunteer firefighters in Haliburton County were the recipients of this year's Warden's Award, recognizing the ongoing sacrifices and bravery the women and men demonstrate daily. And MC Mike Jaycock was given a well-deserved honorary membership to the Chamber for his 10 years of hosting the gala. And finally, a special thank you to the Haliburton Highlands Chamber of Commerce, its General Manager, Rosemary Jung, and Members Representative Autumn Smith for organizing that spectacular event.
Bravo! The honourable member for Mount Royal.
Mr. Speaker, it's rare that there's a topic that we broach in this House on which everyone agrees, but there's no doubt that we all agree that the Holocaust is a historical fact.
The country would deny the Holocaust. But there is indeed one such leader, the Supreme Leader of Iran, Ali Khamenei. He stated the Holocaust is an event whose reality is uncertain, and if it has happened, it's uncertain how it has happened. As such, it is not a surprise, but still a disappointment that the third International Holocaust Cartoon Competition will be held in Iran in June. At this deplorable event, participants are rewarded for drawing cartoons that deny the Holocaust in return for a $50,000 cash prize. This competition is an insult to survivors of the Holocaust and to all of those who value common sense in history. I ask my colleagues to join me in urging Iran to cancel this celebration of Holocaust denial.
The honourable member for Brampton North.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in this House today to remind everyone that tomorrow we celebrate International Women's Day. This year, the theme for International Women's Day is Empowerment Leads to Equality. Women who are empowered are better equipped to fulfill their potential and contribute their best to society. I'd like to take a moment to recognize my father, Mr. Harbans Singh Jandali, who empowered me throughout my life to get involved in politics and my community. Without his encouragement, I would not be standing before you in this House today. However, it is not that long ago that when I was born into an atmosphere of sorrow and gloom, being a second daughter in my family, culturally there was not much reason to celebrate. For a daughter was not seen as holding the same importance as a male child. While in my presence here today goes to show how wrong these ideas were then and still are today. That's why I'd also like to recognize Lordy for Her, a great organization with its grassroots in Brampton. Their message of empowerment and gender equality is helping create a new cultural trend.
The honourable member for Milton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, after having served the business community of Milton for 33 years as the Executive Director of the Milton Chamber of Commerce, Sandy Martin is retiring in April. Sandy is a proud Miltonian who's watched our community grow, and during that growth, she has consistently advocated that Milton maintain a business-friendly environment, and her success is evident because in 2015, Milton took the top spot in Profit.com's list of the best places for business in Canada.
Terrific.
Sandy's been recognized by the Rotary Foundation, the Ontario Chamber of Commerce, and has been named Milton Citizen of the Year. In 2009, she received the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal. Sandy leaves the Chamber with a strong financial position and a capable and resilient staff. But she says the highlight of her early career was bringing the popular Milton Farmers Market to downtown, where on a Saturday you will see 1,000 parents, kids, and dogs. Sandy Martin is an accomplished executive, a tireless community volunteer, and a devoted mother. And on behalf of all Miltonians, I give her our thanks for her service.
The honourable member for Don Valley West.
Mr. Speaker, over the past month, I've had the honour to co-chair the Special Joint Committee considering the question of medical assistance in dying. On February 25th, we tabled our report, and today I want to take the opportunity to do two things. First, I'd like to draw the House's attention to the tremendous effort put in by every member of the committee from all three parties and from the Senate. I was struck by both the compassion and intelligence that guided every member of the committee as we wrestled with the issues of life and death, of living and dying, and of suffering and hope. Even when there was disagreement, there was great decency and respect shown by every member of the committee. Secondly, I want to encourage every member of the House to read the report, the whole report, and not just the recommendations. In this way, they will, in part, share in the journey we took. I encourage them to seek out committee members to hear their experience and to discuss this report with families, friends, and constituents so they too may grapple with this important issue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagotte. From March 3rd to May 19th, for the 40th consecutive time, we will have the Vadok-Richelieu-Yamaska Regional Games. This is a multitude of sports, social, and cultural activities to allow people over 50 to enjoy a challenge. This organization has more than 31,000 members in 56 different clubs. Over 600 volunteers are involved in this organization, which is a strength for the community of Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagotte. I'd like to point out the dedication of Mr. André Lucier, the President, and Claude Leblanc, Director General, and members of their team who defend the rights of seniors and also help the poor and work on a daily basis to improve the quality of life of people over 50 so that this stage of their life be marked by health and flourishing.
The Honourable Member for Carleton.
Finding someone to donate a kidney is hard. So hard, in fact, that 153 people died in 2012 waiting for an organ transplant, and there are 4,400 Canadians waiting today. That is why Colin Pereira, who is in late stages of kidney failure, was thrilled when his nephew from Sri Lanka offered to donate his. Imagine Colin's heartbreak when the nephew was denied a visitor visa to come here for the operation. Colin was so devastated that he told his doctors to take him off painful dialysis and let him die peacefully. They sent him to my office instead, and I asked the Minister of Immigration for a special permit. The Minister's office provided top-notch treatment and quickly agreed, and the surgery is scheduled for next month. On behalf of a thrilled Colin Pereira and all of his family, I thank the brilliant staff in both the Minister's offices and mine for helping to save this man's life.
Member for Vancouver Quadra.
Inspired, empowered, connected. That's what happens when leaders come together to share winning strategies to ignite innovation and accelerate the shift to a low-carbon economy. I'm referring to the Globe 2016 Conference and Innovation Expo in Vancouver last week. I had the pleasure of attending its launch, where our Prime Minister confirmed our government's commitment to real action on climate change based on collaboration. At 25 years old, Globe is North America's largest and longest-running clean tech conference series and an important catalyst for generating solutions. I'm happy to report the events last week built on that tradition. The best and brightest of the international sustainable business community shared ideas with thought leaders, policymakers, and practitioners. The conference events and side events were dynamic, and visitors swarmed the expo's array of novel, clean tech solutions. Our beautiful city of Vancouver is a natural home for Globe, which in turn has helped make our city a leading hub for the clean tech sector. Now that's inspiring.
Oral questions, questions orales. Honorable chef de l'opposition.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, over 40,000 Canadians served our nation during the Afghanistan mission. 158 of those gave their lives. This was Canada's longest war, and it's the war of our generation. Yet the Prime Minister is considering cancelling the Afghanistan Memorial, and he already cancelled the War Memorial program for small communities. Mr. Speaker, Canadians want to remember and they want to honour our heroes. So why is the Prime Minister denying proper memorials for those who served and in some cases gave their lives?
The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
It is very important to honor the men and women who served in Afghanistan. In 2014, a motion for a memorial to this mission received unanimous support in this House. Also, the dates of the mission were inscribed on the National War Memorial. Veterans Affairs is working closely with Canadian Heritage to advance this initiative. More information regarding the project will be available in the coming months.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Centre for American Progress is actually a front for anti-Canadian energy activists who want to shut down Canadian jobs. In fact, they insulted Canadian energy workers by calling their jobs dirty business. And they were instrumental, of course, in Obama's rejection of the Keystone Pipeline. Their goal is clear: to shut down Canada's energy industry. And yet this week, our own Prime Minister is their guest of honour. Mr. Speaker, why is the Prime Minister aligning himself with an American organization that wants to kill Canadian jobs?
The Honourable Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Unlike the party opposite, we understand that the environment and the economy go together. And I was very pleased to see the Prime Minister with all the provinces and territories making exactly that case, coming together to tackle climate change. We will also be working with the United States to tackle climate change because that is the right thing to do.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, while the Prime Minister is in Washington hanging around with anti-Canadian activists, it's now obvious that back here at home, his budget promises won't actually help working people. The latest evidence comes from TD Bank economists. According to TD, the Liberals will completely miss their balanced budget target, adding $150 billion in borrowed money, and yet that will have a very small impact on Canadian economic growth. Mr. Speaker, when will the Prime Minister admit that his reckless borrowing and spending won't actually result in growth? It'll only result in higher taxes and larger government.
The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives added $150 billion to Canada's national debt, and they failed to create growth with that spending, and that's because they spent money on fake lakes, on partisan advertising, and gazebos, none of which create growth. Our government will invest strategically in infrastructure, skills, and jobs and growth. In today's slow-growth economy, it is not the time to cut ideologically. It's the time to invest strategically, and that's exactly what we're going to do.
Et maintenant, l'honorable député.
The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Growth in G7, and the country was in surplus in November.
And now we've learned that the Prime Minister will be traveling to the U.S., and during his time there, he'll be meeting a group that's opposed to developing the oil sands, which creates so many jobs back home. The Centre for American Progress is a group that boasts that it's opposed to developing this natural resource and against, in fact, people who earn a living from the development of these resources. Canadian families depend on this. Will the Prime Minister explain to Canadians how he can be opposed to Canadian jobs?
Honourable Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We believe that the economy and the environment go together, and that's why in Vancouver, the Prime Minister met with the premiers of all the provinces and territories, and they agreed on a plan to deal with climate change. I was there. I met with industry, including energy industries, and we will work together to prove that the environment and the economy do go hand in hand.
Honourable Député de Lac-Saint-Jean.
Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, our government always worked to ensure that the economy and the government went together, but not by generating deficits of $150 billion. According to TD forecasts, over the next 4 years, this government will generate deficits of over $150 billion, and that makes no sense whatsoever. As you know, Mr. Speaker, current deficits are taxes for the future that will be paid off by our children and our grandchildren. How can we explain that to future generations, Mr. Speaker? The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Eric Dayer and
Mr. Speaker, we inherited a deficit from the Conservatives. And so that's why it's our responsibility to invest in order to create jobs and to generate economic growth. It's exactly what we're going to be doing in the budget, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Outremont. Mr. Speaker, today members are going to be voting on our motion to enhance access to EI. And it's exactly the same proposals put forth and supported, in fact, by the Liberals when they were in the opposition. They even denounced the Conservatives' reform, especially in New Brunswick. Now that they're in power, the Liberals are going to again being betraying their promise. Why are the Liberals refusing to help the thousands of Canadians in need? Why are they doing that?
Now the Minister of Employment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to assure the member across the way and all Canadians that we're working very hard to reform an EI system that was modified with a mean-spirited purpose, a second purpose to help clearly businesses rather than workers. It's time that we renewed EI, and we are going to be bringing with a modernized system very shortly.
Honourable Member for Outremont.
We're going to get to do that today if they vote with us, Mr. Speaker. We'll see how that goes. In opposition, the Liberals voted for increasing EI access, 360 hours as the norm across the country, and they were going to repeal the Conservative reforms. During the campaign, they swore that they'd protect the money workers paid into EI, and that's important because, you see, the last time the Liberals were in power, they stole $54 billion from workers and spent it on corporate tax giveaways. So, why are the Liberals now voting against a motion that would do just that, protect the EI fund? Is it because they plan on stealing workers' money again?
The Honourable Minister of Employment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Clearly, the goal of the system is to hear from Canadians, allow time to look at the changes that are necessary, and fulfill our election platform commitments. And, Mr. Speaker, that's exactly what we intend to do.
And now, Deputy d'Outremont.
Member for Outremont.
Of today's motion are directly in their campaign proposals. Will they vote with us? Yes or no? That's what Canadians will find out today. L'entente sur le bois d'œuvre vient.
The softwood lumber agreement is expiring, and industry and forestry workers are concerned that the U.S. will want to once again reduce imports into their country. Since the botched agreement in 2006, things have evolved, and now the Quebec has reviewed its system with respect to unfair competition. Now, when he travels to Washington, will the Prime Minister take a stand once and for all to defend our forestry sector?
L'Honorable Secretary Parliamentary.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
International.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank the Honourable Member for Outremont for his question. The question of softwood lumber, Mr. Speaker, is an absolute priority for our government. We are working in a constructive fashion with our U.S. and Canadian partners in order to establish an approach that is acceptable mutually. We remain resolved, Mr. Speaker, to maintain stable access to the U.S. market for the softwood lumber industry in Canada. Here's an approach for the future. Tell the U.S. no if they want to impose new standards to reduce this. That's the problem, Mr. Speaker.
After promising to establish a national climate strategy 90 days after the Paris conference, last week's First Ministers' meeting on climate change simply managed to produce more meetings. All Canada has is the old Conservative timelines, the old Conservative targets, and no plan to even reach those. Does the Prime Minister believe that this satisfies the commitment that he made in Paris, and how proud is he to bring the Conservative climate strategy to Washington?
The Honourable Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank the member opposite. We are thrilled by the agreement that was reached, which was reached with the provinces and territories in Vancouver. We have taken, for the first time in our history, we have all the provinces and territories on board to take action against climate change, to meet our international obligations, and recognizes the importance of putting carbon pricing mechanisms. This is a real step. We are now entering into a work group process where at the end of 6 months, we will be able to show real actions that we are taking. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Milton.
Less than 2 weeks ago, the Finance Minister announced that the Liberals were going to run a larger-than-expected deficit for the next 2 years, even before they add in the billions of dollars involved in spending on their new PEP projects. Wow. Last week was a break week where, no doubt, he would have heard from Canadians who are very concerned about the plan. Will the Finance Minister listen to Canadians and reconsider his plan for massive increased spending, higher taxes, and a commitment to long-term deficits?
Secretary for Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the honourable member for a question. Mr. Speaker, let me be clear. We will take no lessons from the Conservative when it comes to the deficit. Mr. Speaker, we started in December already with our plan for the middle class. We cut the tax to middle-class families in December. We will continue in our next budget, Mr. Speaker, in helping Canadian families, which are Canada Child Benefit, which will help 9 families out of 10 and lift hundreds of thousands of kids out of poverty. And we will make historic investment in our infrastructure. That's the way to grow the economy. They should listen from us and see what Canadians have decided on the 19th of October.
The Honourable Member for Milton.
Well, Mr. Speaker, there is one lesson I wish they learned from us as a Conservative government on deficits, and that's how to eliminate Mr. Speaker, StatsCan last week confirmed that we are not in a recession. And indeed, Canadians are left asking then, why is the Finance Minister hell-bent on acting as if we are in a recession? Or maybe, Mr. Speaker, the Finance Minister can confirm for us that we are not in a recession. Or does he have the same lack of confidence in StatsCan officials that he does in finance officials?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, we will take no lessons from the Conservative when it comes to the deficit. Mr. Speaker, let it be no mistake, the Conservative have less stuff with the deficits. The only one who don't understand that are the member of...
Order. We don't need any counting, okay? Colleagues, let's pay attention to what people are saying here. Let's not draw attention to personal attributes or characteristics. Let's focus on the content. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll keep my hands just there so they will be listening. So, Mr. Speaker, what I was saying to the opposite member is that we will make historic investment in our economy to grow the economy. That's what Canadians choose on the 19th of October. But let me be clear, Mr. President, Mr. Speaker, we will be making investment which are responsible. We will continue to reduce our debt to GDP ratio, and we will still have the objective to balance the budget. That's what Canadians expect from us. That's what we'll deliver.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, for us Conservatives, the real economic drivers, the real job creators are SMEs. We hold them in high esteem, and our government took several steps to reduce the burden for SMEs, for EI, and we wanted to bring it down to $2.09 per $100. But the government would like to keep it at $2.31. Mr. Speaker, this question is simple. Will the government commit to not imposing further burdens on those who create jobs in this country, SMEs?
The Honourable Minister for Small Business and Tourism.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the question.
This government ran on a platform. We committed to work with small and medium-sized businesses, and we committed to reduce the administrative burden as well as the tax burden on small and medium-sized businesses, and that's exactly what we'll do. I know the members opposite are excited to see the budget that we will be introducing on March 22nd. Stay tuned. It is coming. We look forward to working with you, and we look forward to working for Canadians and small and medium-sized businesses. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Well, the problem is that the Prime Minister, the leader of the government, during the election campaign, wasn't very respectful towards SMEs. What did he say? Well, a significant proportion of SMEs are, for richer Canadians, just a way of paying less taxes. That is contemptuous of SMEs. Does the government commit to helping our SMEs instead of showing such contempt for them the way they did during the election campaign?
I again thank the member for the question, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate the opportunity to rise in this House to remind Canadians that we made a commitment to lower the tax burden on small and medium-sized businesses, and that's exactly what we'll do. We know the members opposite are very good at picking appoint words and misinforming Canadians. That's something we will not do because we are committed to working with Canadians and we are consulting with small and medium-sized businesses and entrepreneurs because we know that's how we will grow the economy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Carleton.
Those very entrepreneurs they're consulting with will agree that stock options are one of the greatest financial innovations to attract the brightest young people here in Canada. Mr. Speaker, young superstar engineers, code writers, and IT pros accept lower pay today in exchange for a share of growth in the company tomorrow. The government's plan to double taxes on stock options will basically put them out of business altogether. Mr. Speaker, will the government rise today and announce it will cancel this job-killing tax increase and keep our brightest innovators right here in Canada?
Honourable Minister for Economic Development.
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite has raised this question before, and I've told him that we're engaged with small and medium-sized enterprises. We're engaged with the business community because they understand, not only when it comes to stock options, but overall they are very, very fond and very supportive of our innovation agenda, an agenda that makes us more competitive, makes us more productive, Mr. Speaker. We're helping small businesses scale up and grow. We're helping them compete globally, Mr. Speaker. We have a plan. We'll execute that plan, and we'll make sure we create an environment for businesses to succeed.
Now the member for Carleton.
Well, the environment of higher taxes on stock options will not allow them to succeed. But, Mr. Speaker, there's also a financial problem here. The government says it wants to treat gains from stock options as regular T4 income. But that, of course, would allow corporations to write it off and, in fact, render the entire change revenue negative. I wonder if the government can stand today and tell the House whether finance officials have briefed the Minister of Finance on the financial implications of this tax increase.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable for his question. We obviously see, Mr. Speaker, stock option as legitimate and valued form of compensation in our country, and we want to ensure that innovators and startups can grow in Canada. Mr. Speaker, as we work on Budget 2016, we've been hearing from Canadians across the country, including from the innovation and technology sector. Those concerns, those issues, Mr. Speaker, have been heard, and they will be considered as we work on Budget 2016. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Essex.
Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister promised to be open and transparent on trade deals, but his government's approach is anything but open. Canadians are concerned about CETA and the TPP. Investor state provisions will have big implications for Canadians, affecting everything from environmental protection and labour rights to drug costs. Before the election, Liberals demanded the government consult Canadians and produce a cost-benefit analysis of trade deals. Now that they're government, where is the TPP analysis and where is the consultation with Canadians?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for International Trade.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the honourable member for her question as well as for her work on this file. Mr. Speaker, we committed during the election campaign to have a transparent and open examination of the TPP and of the provisions within it. We are undertaking that, Mr. Speaker. There will be a vote in Parliament on that treaty when the time comes, and it is being studied. and we are working at every available method of examining the treaty, Mr. Speaker, including examining the impact.
The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquin-Angers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week, the government announced that Canada and the EU had made changes to the chapter on investment in the Free Trade Agreement. But there are still a number of questions that remain unanswered. We don't know what the impact will be on our environmental legislation and if it will be up to the provinces to pick up the tab in the event of legal proceedings. Can the Minister explain how these changes will protect our environmental legislation from any type of legal proceedings? The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
We were very pleased to do the legal scrub, to finish the legal scrub of the CETA deal. We believe that the environment and economy go together. We believe in the importance of trade deals. We also believe in the importance of environmental protections. CETA is a very good example about how you can protect the environment and also grow our economy. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, the war in Afghanistan was waged by 40,000 courageous Canadian soldiers, including 158 who lost their lives. Some were injured physically, others mentally. The former Conservative government announced commemorative monuments to veterans as well as another monument to people having received the Victoria Cross. But these two projects are both in limbo. Will the government finally honour our veterans and complete these two monuments by saying yes to both of them now, Mr. Speaker?
Veterans Affairs.
I thank the member for his question. I will point out that the former government announced this project not only once but twice and failed to get it done in their 10 years in government. Us, with our work with Canadian Heritage, will continue to work with the men and women, both involved in that theatre and otherwise, to work closely to move forward on this project in a timely manner. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou.
I have enough of it. This House has been sitting for 4 months already, and yet the Minister has not been able to give me one real answer regarding the veterans. Mr. Speaker, we are talking about memorials for veterans. Will the Liberal honour our commitment to the Afghanistan Memorial in the upcoming budget, yes or no?
Yes, right. The Minister of Veterans Affairs.
The Conservatives demonstrated their commitment to recognizing the sacrifices of our Canadian Armed Forces by closing 9 Veteran Affairs offices and cutting 800 frontline workers. We will treat our veterans with care, compassion, respect, as well as take commemoration forward in a dignified fashion. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Selkirk, Interlake Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister is waffling. Over 40,000 members of the Canadian Armed Forces served in Afghanistan fighting terrorism and barbarism. 158 Canadians made the ultimate sacrifice in service to Canada. The Afghanistan mission was started under a Liberal government, and it was the longest deployment of the Canadian Armed Forces in history. Canada has a proud military history, which includes the war in Afghanistan. So why is this Liberal government dishonouring our Afghanistan veterans and cancelling the national memorial to Canada's mission in Afghanistan?
The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
I couldn't agree more with the member. We do have a duty to honour and respect those men and women who have served in Afghanistan. This government understands the importance of commemoration, whether it's through Vimy Ridge, through World War II, through our peacekeepers, and also through Afghanistan. We're going to be working closely with those men and women who served, as well as the organizations who want to see this project go forward. I asked the member to give us time. His government couldn't get it done in 10 years. We'll get it done.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, soldiers who sacrifice their lives to defend our country are honoured on Remembrance Day, and this commemoration is essential to honour the memory of those who perished and to remember veterans who survived. Why has the government cancelled the program designed to pay tribute to veterans? And what consultations were conducted among veterans in making that decision?
Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, as I've been pretty clear on, this government understands the importance of commemoration and recognizing the men and women who have served in our armed forces. We will treat them with care, compassion, and respect, not only getting them their services they need, but also the commemoration they deserve. We will not continue with the Fontino follies of the last 10 years, and we'll do things better on this side of the House.
Now the member for Desnethe, Mississippi, Churchill River.
Mr. Speaker, 6 weeks after my community of La Loche experienced a profoundly painful tragedy, we do not have the mental health support we need to deal with the crisis in our community. Many people are showing signs of PTSD, but they have literally no one to turn to for help. Will the Minister of Health send help to La Loche immediately and urgently invest in culturally sensitive mental health services for communities in northern Saskatchewan?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, as the member opposite knows, I traveled to the community of La Loche along with our Prime Minister to pay our respects and condolences to the families who experienced this horrific tragedy. I am concerned, as the member is, about the mental health of the folks in that community who have suffered so much. That is why I have worked with my officials in Health Canada and with the First Nations Inuit Health Branch. I have received a letter from the member opposite last week. I returned a letter to her today. I will continue to work with her to address these needs.
The Honourable Member for Churchill-Kiwatnik-Aski.
Mr. Speaker, Pimicikamak Cree Nation in northern Manitoba is suffering through a suicide epidemic. 5 people have taken their lives and as many as 18 suicide attempts have taken place in the last number of weeks. This didn't just happen. A 17-year-old Amber Muskego says there's nothing for young people to do in her community. This is the face of crushing poverty and growing inequality in Canada. And that is why First Nations are asking for support in terms of education, recreation, and jobs. So will the government listen to Amber and step up to support young people in Pimicikamak and First Nations across the country?
The Honourable Minister of Indigenous and Northern Affairs.
I thank the member for her question and for her ongoing advocacy. Hope in these communities is essential to being able to want to go on and to be able to live and see yourself in contributing in society. And we are committed to make those investments in education and in the social infrastructure that will allow those young people to have hope. And we thank the member for her collaboration in this.
The Honourable Member for Shefford. Mr. Speaker, since my election, I've met with a huge number of incredible people and groups in my riding. I think that the people of my riding should have even greater access to their MP, and that it's unfortunate that we sometimes have to refuse, cancel, or reschedule meetings. Can the Government House Leader please explain to the House how the work that he's undertaken to make Parliament more family-friendly will also help the people in my riding? The Honourable Government House Leader. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague from Shefford for his question. We recognize the importance of modernizing our institutions and making them accessible to all, including parents. We also need to offer better access to MPs, and they shouldn't have to wait often over a month to meet us in our riding offices. Our constituents know the important work that we have to do in our communities, and it's time that our institutions reflect that.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-Nose Hill.
Mr. Speaker, the Live-In Caregiver Program Immigration Stream provides vital support for families who are looking after loved ones with physical or mental disabilities. Can the Minister assure the House that when he finally tables the long-overdue immigration levels report, there won't be cuts to spots available in the Live-In Caregiver Program?
Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my colleague for her question. And I can assure you that the Caregiver Program, as it's now called, because the people are no longer obliged to live in, is an integral part of our immigration program. It provides extensive and much-needed care, not only for seniors, but also for young children. And the House can be assured that this program will remain an important part of what we do in terms of immigration.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-Nose Hill.
I'll take that as a quite possibly, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the immigration via the Federal Skilled Workers Program has long helped to build and strengthen the Canadian economy. With an aging workforce and major infrastructure projects on the line, provinces and territories and job-creating companies have been left waiting to hear from the government on its overdue immigration level support so that they can plan for the future of our economy. Can the Minister assure the House that when he finally tables this report, which is long overdue, that there won't be cuts to spots in the Federal Skilled Workers Program?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, the member might understand that the reason the report is a little late is because something called an election happened, which caused a delay. But I can assure the House that this report will be tabled within the prescribed time. And I can assure the House that while I cannot comment on the numbers yet, that the report will produce a large number of additional refugees. I think we all know that. But it will also do justice to caregivers, to economic immigrants, and to the family class, all of which need our support, Mr. Speaker.
Now the member for York Simcoe.
The Minister of Immigration says the Liberals need to change the Citizenship Guide because it's a bit heavy on the War of 1812. Less than one page out of the 68-page book is dedicated to this nation-building event that ensured Canada's continued existence. Do Liberals oppose letting new Canadians know that English, French, and First Nations people can work together effectively? Do they oppose letting Canadians know that when we fight, even against the odds, we win? Why the Liberal war on history?
Honourable Minister of Immigration.
It's a bit much, at least a little speechless. We are not conducting a war on history. We may put a little bit less in, that is the conservative vision of history, but we are a party of history. We are a party of evidence, a party of science, and one of the worst things that party did was to abolish the long-form census, and I think their view of history is in the same pattern. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The member for York Simcoe.
The Prime Minister says Americans should know more about the rest of the world, but he wants Canadians to know less about their own country. Now, thanks to the Citizenship Guide, new Canadians do know the history of their country. They even know the difference between the Great Canadian Victory at Vimy Ridge and the Craven Vichy regime in France. Why does the Immigration Minister want to reduce the historical literacy of new Canadians? Just because he doesn't value Canadian history doesn't mean we should leave new Canadians in the dark about their country. Why the Liberal war on history?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Speechless, but that almost did it. I would suggest to the honourable member that the Liberals have a great appreciation of history. He says, I know history. I do have a PhD in economic history of Canada, so I think I know a little bit. And so I would tell the member that we are in the process of revising this document to make it a little bit less political, but in the end result, there will be a lot of history in there.
The Honourable Member for Jonquière. Mr. Speaker, the forestry sector employs over 60,000 workers in Quebec, including 5,000 in Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean. After a number of difficult years for the softwood lumber sector, the industry is facing uncertainty yet again with the agreement set to expire. And we still don't know what position the government will take in negotiating with the Americans. Quebec has a distinct forestry regime, and that has to be recognized. Can the minister tell us what the government is putting on the table to ensure that the new agreement is win-win for our forestry sector? Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for International Trade. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for her question. It's a very important question. This is an absolute priority, Mr. Speaker, for our government. What we want is stable, fair access to the American market for our softwood lumber industry. in Quebec and across the country. That's exactly what we're going to do, Mr. Speaker, and we will use every means at our disposal to do that.
The honourable member for South Okanagan West Kootenay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister's trip to Washington is about more than cocktail parties and magazine spreads. The softwood lumber issue is important to Canadian industry from coast to coast, and workers are worried about how the new agreement will affect their livelihoods. Softwood lumber is again open to negotiation, and our industry is vulnerable. Will the Prime Minister stand up for Canadians and refuse to grant concessions on softwood lumber?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for International Trade.
Once again, Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for his question. It is a very important issue for Canadians. It's an important industry, a very complex industry across this country. We are well aware of the complexity. We are going to ensure that we have stable, fair, and equitable access to the American market. We will use all means at our disposal, Mr. Speaker, and we will get it done.
The honourable member for Foothills.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is going to Washington this week to meet with groups who are openly anti-oil sands and anti-Canadian jobs. When the NDP members met in Washington to lobby against Canadian jobs, Canadians were appalled. But now our Prime Minister is doing it. There are Canadians, thousands of them across this country, who are out of work. Why is this Prime Minister whining and dining with people who hate Canada's energy sector instead of being in Washington lobbying for Canadian jobs and lobbying for the Canadian energy sector who will impact our Canadian economy?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Unlike the previous government, we believe in meeting with all voices around the energy sector. And I want to just inform you, Mr. Speaker, that in 2012, the previous government stated that environmental groups threatened to hijack our regulatory system to achieve their radical ideological agenda. Not exactly helpful language to build bridges and find common ground.
The honourable member for Caribou Prince George.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The expired Canada-U.S. softwood lumber agreement, negotiated under our previous Conservative government, put an end to one of the longest and costly trade disputes between Canada and the U.S., and it ensured 145,000 forestry jobs were protected in BC alone. How does the Prime Minister think that the U.S. will take him seriously when he's more focused on his outfit for the state dinner than securing a new softwood lumber agreement?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for his question. It bears repeating, and I say it once again in front of this House, that resolving the softwood lumber issue is an absolute priority for this government, for our Prime Minister, for our Minister of International Trade. We have consulted. We are working with our partners to find a constructive solution moving forward with our partners both in the United States and in Canada. We will ensure that this is done, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The member for Caribou Prince George.
Well, the priority seems to be more what he's wearing or who he's wearing than actually getting an agreement done. Mr. Speaker, this week the Prime Minister is going on bended knee to Washington, and once again he's failed to renegotiate one of the most important trade agreements between our two countries. Instead of pandering to anti-Canadian lobbyists and abandoning yet another resource industry, when is this Prime Minister going to start fighting for Canadian jobs and bring home a balanced softwood lumber agreement?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for yet again the same question. Since this government took over on the 19th of October, the Prime Minister and the Minister of International Trade have used every single opportunity they have had to consult with our American partners and to consult with Canadians. We are moving forward in a constructive manner, Mr. Speaker. That is the best way to get it done, and that is how we will get it done.
The honourable member for York South-Weston.
Mr. Speaker, the 6th meeting of the Somalia High-Level Partnership Forum was recently held in Istanbul, Turkey. The meeting was attended by 46 countries, including Canada. With the end of the terms of the federal government and parliament, 2016 is a decisive year for Somalia. Can the Minister of Foreign Affairs update this House on this important meeting and on Canada's contribution to the international community's effort to support a more democratic, secure, and prosperous future for the people of Somalia. Thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I am honored to answer the first question ever asked in this House on Somalia by a Member of Parliament of Somalian origin. Mr. Speaker, this year will be crucial for Somalia. They will have a constitutional review, the implementation of a federal structure, and national elections. This would be a challenging agenda for any country, including Canada. Canada will be there with Somalia this year and for the long term.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, Mohammed Khalifa, Editor-in-Chief of Al Furqan newspaper in Windsor, Ontario, was recently hired as a life skills coach for, among others, Syrian refugees arriving in Canada. Now, B'nai B'rith, Canada's oldest Jewish human rights organization, has accused Al Furqan and its editor of directly contributing to the radicalization of Canadian youth by glamorizing murderous attacks on civilians in Israel as a sacred religious duty. Mr. Speaker, where is the federal oversight to prevent this sort of anti-Semitic, indeed terrorist indoctrination of new Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, we indicated in the election platform, and it's in my mandate letter, that we will work with provinces and communities, organizations across the country to develop a new system of community outreach and effective counter-radicalization initiatives in order to make sure that we build strong individuals in strong communities defending the very best of Canadian values, and we will move on that expeditiously.
The Honourable Member for Longueuil, Saint-Hubert. Mr. Speaker, last year 25,000 people took to the streets to defend CBC Radio-Canada. The Liberals were there making big promises. And yet today, under these same Liberals, Radio-Canada's Montreal headquarters is for sale. The Minister is going to tell us again that CBC is independent and that it will consult. But that's not the issue. It'll be too late if there's consultations. That building belongs to all Quebecers and all Canadians. It's a part of the history of Montreal, and it's an entire neighborhood that's going to be abandoned. Will the Minister impose a moratorium on the sale until all options are studied and made public? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for the question. We understand that Radio-Canada's headquarters is an important symbol, and as a member and minister from Montreal, I want to ensure that CBC Radio-Canada's leadership consults with the Montreal political milieu as well as with employees and unions. The most important thing, given the importance of Radio-Canada's headquarters, is that our employees at Radio-Canada and CBC have access to a work environment that is modern, that meets their needs.
Preston Chesapeake.
Mr. Speaker, on March 3rd, Rendezvous de la Francophonie 2016 began throughout the country. This annual event counts over 2,300 activities to celebrate the French language and culture. I myself participated in the launch of special programs for French schools in Nova Scotia. I'd like to ask, can the Minister of Canadian Heritage please give this House more information about Rendezvous de la Francophonie? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage. I'd like to thank the member for his question. Rendezvous de la Francophonie was launched last week, and it's really a unique opportunity to celebrate the French language and culture across the country. There are activities underway until March 23rd across the country to celebrate all Francophones, Quebecers, Acadians, and those who speak French, and everyone who's interested in the French language. Canadian Heritage supports Rendezvous de la Francophonie with $2.8 million over the next few years.
The Honourable Member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, later today, members of Parliament, of the Pakistani community, and of the Bhatti family will gather here to honour the life and legacy of Shahbaz Bhatti, a Pakistani federal minister who was assassinated for his advocacy on behalf of Pakistan's minorities. Shahbaz was the inspiration for the Office of Religious Freedom, and the Bhatti family have been clear in their support for it. So will the government give them good news today and commit to keeping this office open after March 31st?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, whatever structure we'll put in place, it will be to strengthen the protection of religious minorities around the world, as the one my honourable colleague mentioned. We have only one goal here, is to be sure that freedom of religion will be highly protected and will be a priority for Canada.
The Honourable Member for Rivière du Nord. Mr. Speaker, even if NAFTA and the OMC have always rejected claims of dumping against our forestry industry, Quebec changed its forestry regime to be above all suspicion. Since 2013, our wood is sold in public auctions exactly like in the United States. However, the federal government has done nothing to recognize this distinct fact. Will the government take advantage of the Prime Minister's visit to Washington to make sure the Americans recognize that Quebec's forestry regime is irreproachable? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for International Trade. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank the Honourable Member for his question. We are aware of the changes that have been made to the forestry regime in Quebec, and we are aware of the changes and the other regimes that exist in the country. We are currently using every means at our disposal to find a fair solution to ensure that we have stable access to the American market. The Honourable Member for Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, the free trade agreement with the United States is essential and guarantees trade peace. However, the forestry sector goes from one conflict to another. The industry just wants one thing: to go back to free trade as required under NAFTA. The government is making Quebec's forestry industry suffer. When will the government and the members elected in Quebec stand up for our forestry sector and our forestry workers? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank the Honourable Member for his question. I can assure the Honourable Member that the Prime Minister, as well as the Minister of International Trade, since their election in October, have used every opportunity to move this issue forward to make sure that our positions are clear to our American partners and that we ensure that we will have stable access to the American market. The Honourable Member for Bécancour, Nicolas Sorel. Mr. Speaker, the group tasked by the Conservatives with reviewing the Transportation Act has tabled its report. This report, which was intended to map the future of transport in Canada, has completely ignored the issues of safety and security in rail transport, issues which are of immense concern to Quebec's municipalities. Will the government listen to the cities of Quebec and require that rail companies notify them in real time of what's going through their territory, and require that all DOT 111 rail tankers be immediately removed from service? The Honourable Minister of Transport. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. And as he knows, for this government, rail safety is our top priority. And the previous government put in place measures to increase rail safety, including by eventually removing the DOT 111 tanker cars from service. But I can say that we are undertaking a review of rail safety to increase the quality of rail safety to ensure that all Canadians are reassured and safe. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I would like to draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of the Honourable Michael Coteau, Minister of Tourism, Culture and Sport for the province of Ontario. I would like to draw the attention of honourable members to the presence in the gallery of Mr. Martin Chongyong, Secretary General of the Inter-Parliamentary Union. J'ai un appel au règlement.
I have a point of order from the member for Louis Saint Laurent.
A few minutes ago, during the question period, the Honourable Minister of Small Business and Tourism said that we were, quote, misinforming Canadians. Monsieur le Président, je tiens à dire à cette Chambre.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to tell the Speaker that I have never engaged in misinformation.
Order, but I thank the member for his clarification. The Honourable Member for Regina Capel.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, thank you. And there have been some consultations with experts at the Department of Finance, and they have confirmed that the Conservative government left the Liberals with the surplus. I'd just like to take...
We want to get an answer to this question. Oh, let's quiet down for a second. Is there unanimous consent to table the document? I do not hear unanimous consent. All right. Orders of the day. Oh no, tabling of documents. Excuse me.